Guys, good morning. Uh, So far, we have completed with the various HTTP methods like HTTP GET method, HTTP delete. Yesterday, we have seen about the HTTP post. So, whenever the help of a web service, if an external system wanted to retrieve the data from a Salesforce object, particularly, in that case, we design that web service by using the HTTP GET method. So the HTTP GET method is used to get the data, to retrieve the data from any object of the Salesforce. The web service is used to provide that data, the external system to the external third-party system. Similarly, the HTTP delete method. The HTTP delete method would facilitate the mechanism by which an external application to perform the deletion of a record inside in the Salesforce object. And whenever it performs the deletion, that deletion is a soft deletion, it's not the hard deletion. That means with the help of a web service, whenever you delete a data, that actually goes to the recycle bin. And inside in the recycle bin, it remains for the next 15 days. After 15 days, yes, obviously, that's a default mechanism in the Salesforce that it would going to perform the hard delete of that data. That was HTTP delete method. Now, yesterday we have seen about something which was very interesting. It was very interesting in my opinion. How would you insert a record, a new record, inside an object of the Salesforce by receiving that data from the external? That's a very interesting part because if you would have a front end, let's assume for a time being, let's assume that you have a front end which actually is not in Salesforce. And this has happened a lot many times with me as well. I have worked in lot many projects where entire front end, was being dependent on a separate technology. I have worked a lot many projects with this kind of, this kind of structure. For example, I have worked on a project for one of the University of Canada called Yorkville University. Now, what was happening, like the Yorkville University was having their website, and that I can show you that as well. Let me try to show you that thing. It's everything which is available over the internet itself. So as you can see with this application, this was a standalone application. It is this website, lot of beautiful people over here. So this entire is created by using a different technology. Uh, I guess it is React. I'm not sure. Most of the portion is React. Now there is a lot many things which was being over here, right? And try and try with something. Maybe with this form, I guess I can try. There was a lot many user interfaces over here. So I'm not sure whether it would, yeah, it would require to create an account in this case, but yes, there was a lot many front-end user interface where user was entering something. And this has to be, that entire data would flow to the backend. So for example, if I would wanted to, let's say I wanted to enroll for this course of them, so it would definitely give me certain things and it would ask me to make an inquiry. So it was something like, it was something like, there is a front end, there is a front end, and the records were coming from that front end, which actually is not a Salesforce. Let's say there is a front end which is developed on the React, but the requirement is like whatever is getting entered inside in that front end, you know, that should come, that should be get stored in one of the object of the Salesforce. This is a very common requirement. You probably, you will going to face a lot many times whenever the integration, if you are working on a kind of project where integration is being involved. So you would be facing this kind of requirement very frequently. So there would be a front end, and let's say there is a form, a user interface, a user experience. There is a lot many names for that: UI, UX, whatever it is. Everyone wanted to say whether it's a UI or UX. UI is a full form, short form of user interface. UX is the short form user experience. Ultimately, everyone is trying to say that there is a front end which is built upon a separate technology. Whatever is entering over there, we wanted to collect it, and then we have to store it inside one of the object of the Salesforce. One of the object of the Salesforce. So yesterday, the kind of program what you have created was very important. Was very important because you understand how you can write down, how you can create a web service class using HTTP post method, using HTTP post method. And this HTTP post method would facilitate this kind of operation, that it would take the response, it would take that data, would take that request, and then it would store it inside an object of the Salesforce in the form of a record. After this today, I would be making you aware about HTTP put method, which actually would perform the update operation, and then finally patch method, which would perform an upsert method. So all three of them: insert, update, delete, patch, everything is equally important. Although, but in most of the time, I have worked most of the time, I have worked with HTTP put method, this one which we are studying today, and HTTP post, and few of the time with HTTP get as well. Under very rare circumstances, I have worked maybe on HTTP delete method or HTTP patch method, which would perform an upsert operation. But HTTP get, HTTP post, and HTTP put, these are three common methods which I have worked with almost all sort of integrations which I have done in my entire career. Right. So these things are really, really important. All right. So let's go with this. So HTTP put method is used to perform an update operation. Now you know what does it means by an update. I don't think that it is required to make understand what is an update. If there is an existing record inside the Salesforce, we wanted to change a few or every entity inside of that. So that is what it's called as HTTP. That is what it's called as an update operation. So let's now try to understand with this example how we can perform this, right? So create a web service that would update the case record with the specified status and priority, with the specified status and priority for the case record based on the case number. So based on the case number means obviously as an input, the case number would come and we would have to make those updations. So this is just a sample. See, requirements would be, requirements could be as simple as like this, or maybe it would be a little more complicated. It can ask you to update a lot many things as well. So even though if it would ask you to update a lot many things, if you know how to update few fields like priority or maybe the status, you can obviously increase little more steps in your program and we can achieve those things as well, right? So chalo isko dekh lete hain. So let me create a class called case record manager services. So I shall take you to the developer console for this, and I would be creating a new class. I've created a class. Now let me make this class as a web service. So every web service should always be global. right? Every web service should always be global. And now to make it, it should always be annotated with a keyword called a REST resource. REST resource URL mapping. URL mapping equals to, let me have these things, and then asterisk. Here you should have to mention any nickname, but actually it's not nickname. Basically, there's a technical word for that. There's a technical thing, like it is used to call as resource name. Resource name. All right. Anyways, case record manager. I shall name case record services. You can give any name, case record, whatever you feel is more appropriate, right? Now, I would be creating a method over here. That method should always be a global method. It should also be a global method. So global static, and in return, I would be returning certain message maybe after updation, like updation is successful, something like that. So the return type I'm keeping as string, and now let me give the name as let's say update is the record. So with this name, I am creating a method. With this name, I am creating a method. All right. Now, this method, because it is intended to perform an update operation particularly, should be annotated with HTTP put method. Because this method is intended to perform what? It is intended to perform an update operation. Right? Sure. So let's try to build up that business logic. So what we are trying to do over here is like, we are asking, we would be asking for a few of the parameters. I mean, not asking, actually, we are assuming that we are receiving a few parameters in the input, right? We are receiving a few parameters in the input. Based on that only, we would going to design the SQL query. What are those parameters? Let's say we are receiving case number. I will be collecting this inside a variable called C number, and we are receiving the priority. So case priority, and of course string case status. So C status. These are three of the things which are coming as an input, right? These three are the coming as an input. It has been mentioned over here in the use case as well. I'm not taking this from my own. So you have to update the case record, but not everything. You have to update the case that have a specified status priority based on the case number, right? So that is what we have to do. And that's why I have taken case number, case priority, and case status. I have defined three different variables, and I am assuming this that inside in the request, it would come up with these three things: case number, case priority. So whatever the JSON payload would come, it would consist of three things: case number, case priority, and case status. All right. So let's move on with this. Now, I would first of all would check for the null pointer exception, because that's really essential. If you're receiving something from the external thing, you should always check whether these case number, all three of them, whether the case number, whether the case number, should I check for all three? No, no, all three need. This is the most important. Case number should not equals to null. Case number should not equals to null, and that case number should not equals to empty. For the entire business logic, we are going to fire a query. We are going to design a query that would pick up a case record out of, let's say, there are 1,000 records inside the case object, but it is going to pick only one record out of those 1,000. It would going to pick only one record. It would going to select only one. How come? Based on that case number. So the case number out of these three entities which is coming in the request, like case number, priority, and status, this particular case number is acting as a primary key and is always going to be unique. There might be two or more cases with the same priority at the same time, same status as well. There could be multiple cases with the same status and same priority, but it cannot possible that there are two cases or more than two, more than one cases. Let's say, why should two? More than one cases with the same case number. This is the unique entity. So whenever we wanted to pick something very uniquely inside an SQL query, we always make a use of primary key. And that's the reason I am checking for the case number. It should present. My whole business logic depends on this thing only, right? Chalo, आगे बढ़ते हैं. So I would be picking one record, only one record. So मैं case object का एक variable define कर लेता हूँ because there's only one record. There cannot be multiple records. Multiple records होते तो मैं list of case define करता, जो कि possible नहीं है. आप case number देने के बाद आपको एक ही record मिलेगा. Select ID case number and priority status. A few more things if I wanted, like origin, reason, and I wanted all this from case. Do I wanted everything? No. I wanted where, let's impose the condition, where case number should equals to dynamic assignment should equals to this C number. So it should match with the value which is there inside in this variable. Just give me only that case record in return which is there inside in this. All right. Now, if this C record is not empty, let's say if there is a record or C record dot ID, if it is not equals to null, that means there is a record. There is a record with the supplied case number. It might also be possible, the second possibility, like, yes, the case number is not empty. Let's say that this case number, see, understand, we are receiving this from the external world. There is an external application which is supplying us this case number. Okay, fine. The case number is not empty. But then the second possibility could also be like, when you design the query and when you ask a case record against that case number, there is no such record with that value. This could also possible. है ना? दोनों चीजें हैं आपको, and you have to take both of them into considerations. So my first thing is to check whether from that external request, whether it have the value of case number or what. And my the second thing would be, okay, whether with that supplied case number, do we have a record inside in the case object or not? So this is checking for that. If the C record ID is not equals to null, because if it is null, there is no such case with this number, with this supplied input. Otherwise, if you have a record, let's now try to update the priority and the status of that particular thing, right? So what we can do over here, we have to update. So I would be performing like the same thing, C record. If this is present, that the status value should equals to whatever you have supplied inside in this status. It would going to be get overwritten with that. And then similarly, C record dot priority should be get updated with the value which we have received inside in this variable. Once you're done with that, once you have done with that, the next thing what you have to perform is to apply the DML. That DML would be update what? Just update your C record. That is what the DML. And once that is also done, you have to return certain message like operation was successful. But else, let's now go to else part. So what does it mean? Else, there's no such record with this case number, right? There's no such record with this case number. So for this else part, I can return. See, this else belongs to this if, right? This else belongs to this if. We are doing this if we found a record with that case number. So we are doing those updations, right? We are doing those updations. But let's say if there is like, if there is no such record with that case number, so I have to return a statement like case record with case record not found, or let's say invalid case number. ठीक है, सो आपने जो केस नंबर हमको दिया है उसके अगेंस्ट में जब हमने क्वेरी फायर किया, उसके अगेंस्ट में जब हमने क्वेरी फायर किया तो हमें ऐसा कोई भी केस रिकॉर्ड मिला ही नहीं. सो दिस इज व्हाट नाउ वी हैव दिस इफ एज वेल, राइट. एक इफ यहाँ पर भी है हमारा. इसके लिए भी आप चाहें तो एक एल्स स्टेटमेंट में एक मैसेज दे सकते हैं कि ये चेक कर रहा है कि केस नंबर दिया गया है या नहीं. बिकॉज केस नंबर दिया है तो उसी के अगेंस्ट में क्वेरी फायर होगी. तो अगर मैं इस इफ की बात करूं तो यहाँ पे फिर यहाँ पे वो एंड होता है ब्लॉक. यहाँ पर आई कुड हैव वन मोर एल्स स्टेटमेंट वेर इन व्हाट यू कैन मेंशन वुड बी लाइक. अगर ऐसा है तो फिर हम एक स्टेटमेंट रिटर्न कर सकते हैं कि भाई आपने हमें केस नंबर ही नहीं दिया है. बिकॉज दिस इज चेकिंग व्हाट इफ केस नंबर इज नॉट नल. अगर केस नंबर नल नहीं है तो फिर आप ये सारी चीजें एग्जीक्यूट कर रहे हो, आप क्वेरी फायर कर रहे हो उस केस नंबर के अगेंस्ट में, एंड देन यू आर ट्राइंग टू फेच आउट दैट. बट अगर आपको केस नंबर ही नहीं मिला है तो इस एल्स में आप क्या दे सकते हो यहाँ पे. you can write down that like a statement like please provide case number. That's it. Please provide the case number. This is what the statement. Now let me try to save it. Here there's a semicolon which is missing. Okay. So now this program is error-free program, and let's now try to test this one. So I shall go to the workbench, and here I would going to perform that testing. So once again, I would make a login to the production because the developer org is a production org. It's not your sandbox. Now I'll go to Utilities tab and I'll click on the REST Explorer. The method which I have used over here is HTTP put method. So I would be selecting this put as soon as you would select, a request body has been created. So before going that, let me set up the path. So apex rest slash, and you have to give the name of the resource name of your web service. So it's case record service. So I'm just putting it over here, case record service. And now here I have to give that input data, but in the form of JSON. So I shall copy this one, and I would have to have an actual case number over here. Okay. So मैं इस case number को I'm going to replace with one of the case record which I have. So let's go with all open cases, and let's say we have one of the case, the name Rose Gonzalez. Now let's go to the detail tab. The status is new, the priority is high, and the case number is this one. So let me first of all design. I shall copy this case number. I'll just replace it out with this one. Now the existing priority, as you can see, is high. The other options to this is medium and low, right? So I shall make it medium, and the status, as you can see, is new. Status, although is new, here the status comes as working, right? So this is the present state. This is the present state of the record. The status is new, priority is high. Now I'm trying to update this from an external web service. I'm trying to update this from external application. This application also is sending the request. It's sending the case number, the new value of priority, and a new value of status. All right. Now let me try to execute this one. So updation was successful is the response. Let's go back. And let's try to refresh this. Now you can see the status has been changed to working and priority is changed to medium. So this is how we can update a record inside in the Salesforce by using an external application. Right? Go with this program. You have one more example for this. The second one is about annual revenue, updating the rating and annual revenue value based, right? So go with this program as well. This is an assignment for you. Now let me immediately move on to the next part of this, which is the last method, and it is HTTP patch method. Patch particularly is used to perform the upsert. Now what is an upsert? Upsert means insert plus update. Upsert method means insert plus update. It is something like, see, you did this, if you remember, inside in your data loader exam. So if you wanted to brush up the concepts, you wanted to revise how we did that in the past, what you can do is, like, you can go to the data loaders, those sessions where I have explained you the data loaders, and then you can see for the upsert one. So if you would supply an ID, it would perform an update operation. If you wouldn't supply the ID, you just give the records, I mean the values of the field, it was going to insert a new record. So based on what type of input data you are supplying, it would either perform an insert or update or both of them, right? So that is what is an upsert method. So now to simulate that upsert, there's a method called as patch. There's a method called as patch. Like for insert, it is post. For update, it is put, and for upsert, it is patch method, right? Let's understand how we can perform this. So this is going to be the last method. Beyond this, there's only one topic, which is OAuth authentication. I shall be starting that by tomorrow. Probably I'm going to end it by tomorrow, or I can make it one more session. See, so this Saturday anyhow is like, it's going to be your last session. Anyways, so let's understand. So create a web service that would update the hiring manager contact number with this value. It's a hard-coded value for the HR records whose location is equals to a specified city at runtime. So specified city as runtime means, city name is going to be received in the runtime. So the request which is coming from the external system would contain city name. Let's say Nagpur, Pune. So based on what city name you have given, it should update the contact number to this one. Let's say the city name is Nagpur, so it should update this with 99, whatever it is the value. If it is Pune, it should not perform that update. So based on a city name particularly, and and it should create a new hiring manager record as well. Okay, let's see. Let's see what this program is doing, right? So based on that, it should perform the update. And if there is no such city name, maybe if there is no such record, in that case, it would create a new one. If there is no such record with these details, it should create a new one. That is what it is. Let me try to create a class. I would create a class for these details. Let me try to create a class and take each other. Okay. So now let's make this class as a global class, because every web service should always have to be global. Now to make it a web service, we would annotate this with a REST resource, URL mapping equals to double inverted comma, double slash, and strict. Now let's give any name to this. I am giving like hiring manager batch services, right? You can give any name. Let's try to give the relevant name. So I'm giving a name called hiring manager batch service. Now inside in this class, I would be defining a method. And because we are intended to perform an upsert, I would define it as HTTP HTTP patch. Now let's create a method global static string again, the return type, and let's give the name as upsert hiring manager records. Now see, we know one thing which was mentioned in the use case was like based on specified city name at runtime, right? So I mean in the request it is coming up with one thing which is city name. So I shall define one string variable, let's say HR city name. So this is what is the input, right? In the input it would come up with a city name, right? In the input it would come up with a city name. All right, now I would check for the null pointer exception error. If this city name, I mean this parameter, it should not, ideally it should not empty, right? It should not equals to null and it should not equals to empty. And the HR city name, that should not equals to empty. Now, if this condition is true, that means we have a value for the city name. So I'm going to design them with my business logic. So I first of all would fire a query, fetch all those records from the hiring manager, where the city name equals to whatever has been supplied. Let's say Nagpur. So how many records in the hiring manager are having the city name as Nagpur or Pune or something like that, right? So I shall design a query for this. So I can do one thing would be like I can have I can fire an SQL query over here itself. So select select from hiring manager. Now let's have that. Let's design that query. Mm, let's say ID I wanted. I also wanted name. I also wanted what is that value? Location and maybe contact number. So from hiring manager. That much is required. So I would be designing this SQL query. I would design this SQL query. Now I would extend where you don't want it to get everything, right? You have a filter condition for this where the location should equals to what? HR city name. Let's say Nagpur. So Nagpur. You know, if I would replicate this, let me try to show you over here. Let's say if I would say where location should equals to, let's say, by the way, location is a pick list, right? You should only supply the value which is available inside the pick list. If you try to do something else, it's going to give you the error, right? So this is what is the replica of the query. You can see based on this selection, it would return you either one record, no record, or multiple records. It is a possibility that it could return you multiple records. So based on what you have supplied, based on whatever the request, I mean, based on the request, whatever has been supplied as a city name, that is going to be collected inside in this variable. We would check whether this variable is not empty and not null. That means it should have something. And based on which, based on the value of that, I am firing my query. Now, because it could return me multiple records, it could return, there's a chances it could return null. It could also return single record. It could also return me multiple records. So I shall be collecting this inside a list collection. Let's say a list of hiring manager, LSTHR records equals to this, and let me put up a semicolon over here as well, right? From the hiring manager, where the value of location seems to be like this. Okay. Now we first of all would check for what the query has written. I mean, is query has written something, or so let's say this agar मान के चलो कि because location is a pick list and it have like Mumbai, Pune, and you are entering a value which is not over there. Maybe for example, you are entering Lucknow, है ना? You are entering Chennai, let's say. And for example, let's assume that value is not over there. So even though if you have supplied a value for city name come up with a value called Lucknow. So yes, this condition is going to be true. Is city name is empty? No, city name is not empty. It's having a value called Lucknow. But then there is no such record of hiring manager where city name equals to Lucknow. That could also possible. So we have to take that as well as into the consideration, right? That's why I would be checking, over here, I would be checking if if this collection, whether this collection is fetching certain records or not. So the same thing, if not of this collection dot is empty, if this collection is not empty, that means it has fetched certain records where the location value matched to the hiring manager records, like Pune या नागपुर को भी अभी हमने देखा है ना ऐसा. All right. Now, I would design the logic to absurd. So let me first of all write down a few of the statements because I cannot explain every step by step. हाँ, लेकिन हो जाएगा पूरा तो मैं बता सकूँ. So I'm defining a list collection. HR records to update equals to new. I'm defining a list of hiring manager actually, making this as a default constructor. And then the first logic would be assign the new values. Which assign the new values. That is update karna records. How would you going to update that, right? The first logic which I am designing is about the updation, because upsert means two things, either insert or update, right? So the first logic which I am designing is about updation. Okay, chalo. So one second. Yes. So I would be performing that update. So what update you have to perform? I mean, as per the use case, if you would found with that city name, if you have found a record, so all of those records, their contact number should be updated to this, right? A hard coded value. So let's say this query has returned me 3 records or 4 or whatever. All of those, like see this. So you can see if I have supplied this as Pune, so it has returned me these many 5 records. Now all of them is having a different contact number. But what should happen कि हम पुणे को एग्जांपल लेके चलते हैं. सो इन सभी के कॉन्टैक्ट नंबर जो है ना ये वैल्यू हो जाना चाहिए. ठीक है. सो दिस इज व्हाट यू हैव टू डू. So I would performing that update operation over here. So what I'm going to do, so let me iterate each record. So for every records from LSTHR record, because यहाँ पे आपने उसको स्टोर करके रखा हुआ है. So for every records out of this LSTHR, by the way, every record over here is of data type as hiring manager, and let's have a local variable called HR for this, right? So for every record of the data type as hiring manager inside in this collection, which has been returned by this query, let's iterate them one by one and let's try to change the contact number. So it would be like HR dot ठीक है. Copy कर लेते हैं. If intelligence is not coming up, there's no problem. Let's copy this. So HR dot contact number should have this value. What is that value? Let me copy it from here. And once you have performed this, we have to, one more thing would be like, I would not going to write the update statement inside in the loop because that goes against the best practices. Rather, I have defined a collection. That is why I have defined a collection. Add, right? Add. What to add? What to add? Add this HR. Add this HR. Add that record. Add that record inside the collection. So what is going to be happen? Let's say how many records are there? ये वाली एग्जांपल में आप देख लो, there are 5 records. Let's say थोड़ी देर के लिए अज्यूम करो कि आपने सिटी एंटर किया है पुणे, पुणे नाम से आया हुआ है सिटी नेम. तो ये क्वेरी इस तरह से फायर होगी एंड इट वुड रिटर्न दिस 5 records. अब हम क्या कर रहे हैं कि all these 5 records are being stored inside a collection called LSTHR record. वो सारे 5 रिकॉर्ड जो इस क्वेरी ने रिटर्न किया, नाउ दे आर स्टोर्ड इनसाइड अ कलेक्शन कॉल्ड LSTHR रिकॉर्ड. यू आर इटरेटिंग वन बाय वन देम, यू आर इटरेटिंग एवरी वन ऑफ देम, और आप एक एक करके उसको कर रहे हो, एंड देन you are updating that contact number, whatever was the previous value is being overwritten by this new value. And then one by one, you are adding this inside a new collection you created. You are adding this inside a new collection. Now, once this loop is over, that means all 5 records, assumption, all 5 records has been added. Now we have to perform the upsert. We have to perform the update over here. मतलब अगर ये इंडिविजुअल करना होता तो मैं यहाँ पे अपडेट लिख रहा होता था, अपडेट. बट क्या है कि इसमें एक क्लॉज और दिया हुआ है. मतलब एक तो ये करना है आपको, एट द सेम टाइम यू हैव टू क्रिएट अ न्यू हायरिंग मैनेजर. तो साथ ही साथ ये होने के साथ आपको नया हायरिंग मैनेजर रिकॉर्ड. अदरवाइज अगर ऐसा नहीं होता ना, तो व्हाट आई वाज डूइंग ओवर हियर वाज अपडेट. मैं अपडेट कर रहा होता था एचआर को. दिस वाज माय प्लान. लेकिन ऐसा नहीं है ना, हमें कुछ और भी करना है. और वो क्या करना है हमें कि आफ्टर दिस अपडेट वी आल्सो वुड हैव टू इंसर्ट अ न्यू हायरिंग मैनेजर रिकॉर्ड. सो दैट्स व्हाई अब मैं यहाँ जो कोड बनाऊंगा, ठीक है, यहाँ जो कोड बनाऊंगा दैट वुड बी अबाउट ऑफ इंसर्ट. दैट इज इंसर्ट. जैसे यहाँ जो कोड लिखा मैंने वो था अपडेट का, कि ये अपडेट का कोड है. तो अब मैं एक कोड और लिखूंगा यहाँ पे जो कि इट वुड परफॉर्म द इंसर्शन. इट वुड परफॉर्म द इंसर्शन. राइट. चलो. So create a new HR manager record would require to create the object of hiring manager. I shall copy this, paste it out over here. Let me create a new object of this. Make this as a default constructor. New keyword is what I forgot. So now we have that object called HR. And with the help of this HR, let me create a new record. HR.name equals to, you should give any name. Web service HR. Okay. And then HR dot, the next is like, let's say contact number. I'll give any value to this as well. Contact number maybe is 887777554433, something like that. And then HR dot HR email ID. HR email ID field would be webservice@test.com. And then HR dot HR ID is unique ID is deleted. Location. So the location I would be giving as, let's say, Nagpur. And then, is there anything more about this HR? Location, name, owner ID, position count is a roll-up summary, sample. I don't know what it is. Senior HR is a self-reference. Connection, contact number we have taken, created. HR email ID. HR ID is deleted. Last location. I guess we have given everything. Name, and then contact number, location, and email ID. Yes, these are okay. So this much is required to create a record inside the object. Now, once you have created that record, right, you have to apply the same thing. Like you just have did what you did over here. What you did, if I wanted to add a comment, so I would say that add these records to collection, right? Which collection? This one, to collection HR. Now, here also, here also I would be doing the same thing. Once you have created the record, right, all of those records which needs to be get updated, they are added inside collection. At the same time, the record which you have created, the new record which you have created, that should also have been added. Otherwise, आप क्या कर रहे होते थे? You would be writing a statement over here. Insert statement लिख रहे होते थे आप. जैसे यहाँ पर आप update लिखने वाले थे. So now in the same way, you have to add this record. You have to add this record to the collection. You will not going to perform insert individually or update individually. So how you are going to add this? The same thing, the same way. Like name of the collection dot add. Name of the collection dot add. Now this time again you are adding what? You are again adding HR, the record which you have created. So now at the end of this, what I can say is like, let's understand this code, which is very simple. You have updated all those records. You have updated the contact number of all those records where you got the city name, where you got the city name. And after updating all those records, you have added it inside a collection. अभी तक हमने DML नहीं perform किया, याद रखिए. So it's not going to be committed to database unless you have performed the DML. You know. Similarly, the new record which you have created, that also you have added to collection. So now everything, the record, the updated records as well as your new records, everything is present inside a collection called HR records to update. The new record which is being created plus all those records which have been updated, everything is now present inside this, right? So after doing this whole thing, the next thing is I would be perform the upsert operation. I would perform an upsert operation. So how you are going to perform? We have a DML for that. Upsert naam ki DML, which what needs to be get upserted? This collection, right? And once you have upserted, you can return a statement, a message like records upserted successfully. ठीक है, records upserted successfully if ये if के लिए हो गया, right over here. But इफ अच्छा इसके लिए भी कर लेते हैं पहले, जैसे हमने पिछले प्रोग्राम में की. लेट्स से आपने जो सिटी नेम सप्लाई किया, इफ विद दैट सिटी नेम इफ देयर इज नो रिकॉर्ड, तो अगर इफ दिस इज एम्प्टी, तो यहाँ पर हम फिर एक एल्स यहाँ भी दे सकते हैं कि एल्स 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 रिटर्न नो रिकॉर्ड विद दिस सिटी नेम इज फाउंड. हमें कोई रिकॉर्ड नहीं मिला जो कि इस सिटी नेम से है. जैसे आपने सिटी नेम दिया लखनऊ, और लखनऊ के नाम से क्वेरी ने कुछ भी फेच नहीं करा, एंड योर एलएसटी रिकॉर्ड्स इज लिटरली एम्प्टी. If it is not empty, you would go inside the loop. But let's say if it is empty, what happen? You will come up over here and you would going to print that statement. ठीक है, ये वो else हो गया. अब हम इस पे चलते हैं कि if somebody has not supplied that, अगर किसी ने दिया ही नहीं, सिटी नेम ही नहीं दिया है, तब क्या करेंगे? तो फिर इस वाले else से, and यहाँ पे we are going to give one statement that return please provide the city name, something like that. Please please provide the city name. Now let me save this record and let's quickly test it. Okay, so you have very, so I would be testing this out. So let's go to the workbench. I would refresh this. And it is a patch method for which I would be performing testing because we have added patch and Apex REST. After this, hiring manager service, and my JSON, the JSON would only contain one thing. The JSON would only contain one thing, and that would be HR city name. That would be city name. You can give anything over here. So let me design that JSON format quickly. HR city name, colon, is a separator, right? Colon is a separator. Let's have this as Pune. Okay. Let me now execute this quickly. So records upserted successfully, right? Record is upserted successfully. So now if you would fire this query once again, you would going to see their contact number has been updated, the first thing. So I shall fire this query and you can see all of them is having the same contact number. This is the first thing. Now, apart from this, there's one more thing which has been happened is like, one new case record has been inserted. Let me try to show you that as well from here very quickly. So we have inserted a case record where the name looks like to be this. So I shall from hiring manager where name like, let me quickly try to find it out. And this is that record. See, this is that. So this record has been inserted. ये रिकॉर्ड इंसर्ट हुआ और वो बाकी के जितने भी थे वो सारे अपडेटेड हो गए. Okay. So that's all for today. Go with all these examples. Tomorrow, I would be starting the last topic, which could probably take 1 day or maximum 2 days, not more than that. OAuth authentication process. Thank you for joining.